Good morning, and it's nice to have you join us on another great episode of Enterprise Weekend on Enterprise Television. I am Henry Igubike. We're about to head to our newspaper review segment, but before that, if you haven't already, please join us and have a say in what we say by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Enterprise TV7 and do visit our website at www.enterprisetvnews.com. Our guests for this segment are Barrister Evans Ufeli, a public affairs analyst, and Ziki Ibe, who is also a public affairs commentator. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome
Good morning.
to Enterprise Weekend today.
Good morning.
All right, so without much ado, let's start off our newspaper reviews today with the first newspaper coming from The Punch. And the band headline says the cholera outbreak. Nigeria runs out of vaccines as death hits 40. The rider to that big story says order placed, arrival unknown, demand outweighs supply, says NCDC boss. And the sub-rider unregistered tiger nut drinks caused a Lagos cholera outbreak. Now, interestingly, according to the World Health Organization, it says the world has run out of cholera vaccine just when the deadly disease is on rampage not seen in many years. 15 countries are currently reporting active outbreak with more than 40,900 cases and 775 deaths reported in January alone. But all available doses of oral cholera vaccine in the global stockpile have been allocated until mid-March. But Evans Ufeli, isn't this scary?
Yeah, well, it's scary, because the way we go about consumption in Nigeria, most, I will say that 80% of the consumables in Nigeria are not properly processed or analyzed. Most of the food we eat, because they are not processed food, okay, you won't see NAFDAC number on them. Okay, like the tiger nut drink, for example, where you call it processed food, was organic. It's just water and the juice from and maybe sugar or one other solution. But the truth is that those who prepare it, most times, prepare it under very, very unfair condition. Sometimes the water they will use for it may not be as clean as it should be. The environment they will use in the production, they are usually local environments. I mean, nobody produces tiger nut juice in VI or Ikoyi. That can't be the case. So they produce it in local environments. Now, this local environment most times are not properly kept. So the environmental hazards that will come with consumables that are produced in areas where perhaps you have gutters, you have flies all over the place, you have littered environment,
open drainages and all.
Yeah, so during the production of these things, these drinks, not just the tiger nut, the zobo and the likes, okay, are all produced under such kind of condition. Sometimes kunu and the brothers of kunu and all that put together, they are producing them under very untidy environments. So this could lead to an outbreak. Now, we are fortunate in Nigeria that we have, many of us, we have a very strong immune system. We've been taking this thing for so long. But right now, there's a need for the regulatory authorities to look into these consumables.
All right.
Okay.
Yes. So talking about regulatory authorities, Ziggy, every nano, small and micro business entrepreneur in Nigeria is interested to do the needful. But when regulatory authorities make it difficult for them to do the needful, why do you think we won't keep having this sort of issues, especially with the cholera outbreak?
Well, thank you. What is the needful here? Is it
the needful for them to get their products duly registered, duly scrutinized and all? But when NAFDAC gives them a long list of
I think at this point we need to critically look at so many issues that have bedeviled us, and one of them is this cholera outbreak. Recently, we had COVID-19, who had just ravaged the whole country, and by now we thought we should have learned our lesson, such that in every areas of this country, every state of this country, we have facilities that will take care of to nip so many of these things in the bud. But that being said, like you said, so many of these products, as they have been reeled out to cause this cholera outbreak, were not hygienically produced. They were produced under a very unhygienic conditions or environment. And that's why I have to retort what you said about regulatory bodies. The regulatory bodies most times recount themselves. They will issue warnings at the same time. They will just recant it. Recently, we heard that the bodies would not tolerate having people produce or drink this sachet, this thing. Or recently, NAFDAC still came up and said no, that don't worry, start taking it. It's hygienic enough, and that is not sane enough. In a country like ours, where everywhere is filthy, yes, everywhere is filthy. We don't expect wonderful or hygienic products to come from such environments. Okay? And this is expected. What we're having today is expected because ranging from Zobo, many of them in the markets, they are being paraded everywhere. Baraga and other. Who regulates them? And you know, Nigerians, we are in this habit of taking anything that comes our way. If I ask so many people who take this, they will tell you, okay, we use them to whole body. Meaning they don't have a real reason. They are taking it. You understand? And in a country of anyhowness like this, what you get is what we are seeing. The outbreak is expected because we are not hygienically conscious. If we are, cholera outbreak, cholera has been around, I must tell you, yes.
Well, for decades.
For decades. Cholera has been, the outbreak we're having is because people are no longer paying attention to the ways and means of curbing it. That's why we're having the outbreak. And only God knows when it will stop because we are not conscious people here in this environment. When, like you said, we have this immune system. God has given us a natural immune system that fights so many sicknesses or ailments. Otherwise, we would just go in droves. Okay, because we are not conscious, we are not careful people here. We allow everything goes. Everything, anyhowness is what drives so much here. In fact, from this street now, the moment you move out of this, you see Baraga people, you see sachet water people, you see this, you see who regulates them.
They will take it across the expressway where people are defecating.
Yeah.
They will take the Baraga, but they will cross that.
Yes. They will even put it very close to where people defecate. And you know what?
You see, cholera is a waterborne disease.
Yes.
So that is the source. The source is from the water. But even if you have clean water and you don't have hygienic environment, the water will be polluted. So the conversation should not just start and end in let's have potable water.
At all.
Potable water will be polluted by a dirty environment. And when you use it to produce, you get the same outcome.
Now, let me give you this instance. Right? Let me give when the Paraga sellers, the Kunu sellers, and all the likes, when they are seated close to gutters, okay, the cup they use in measuring those things to those who drink, they rinse it from the gutter.
No, even if they don't rinse it from the gutter, you have flies in the gutter.
Yes.
Flies.
Yes.
Now, when they fetch and pour for you,
good.
You are consuming, they keep the cup. The flies from the gutter gets into the cup.
No, they can even use the water. They will use the water to rinse the last user use and pass it on to the next person.
So whichever way you look at it, the proximity to the gutter, because they don't have shops.
Yeah.
They are small scale businesses. They don't have shops. So also the location where they do it. When they expose the cups and the plates and the tumbler, everything to that environment, the flies will take the germs from the gutter, from the soakaway into then the customers will come, they will pour whatever it is, the content for them. That content have deposits of germs carried by flies into those cups and they'll drink it.
All right. So while
but at the end of the day, you will not have an outbreak. It's not just cholera. Typhoid is also a waterborne disease. We know we have a high rate of typhoid. In the 80s, early 80s, when typhoid was discovered, it killed people more than COVID in the 80s, if you remember. So these are diseases that you can actually curb if you have a clean environment. And if people must sell, they must be licensed and they must have a shop or an office, or they should sachet these drinks in such a way that you're able to. I'm not talking about the bitters we have now today. You have the Alumo, you have action bitters, you have dirty bitters.
Most
you have
bitters are
so
there.
you have all the. So
Yes.
I don't know where we are going to.
Produced under a very unhygienic environment. And the regulatory bodies are looking the other way. Like I said earlier, recently, they said they banned so many of these sachet.
Yeah, it was banned.
Yes, it was banned.
School children were buying it and put in their bags.
Okay, now, when it
secondary
was
school
banned
children.
recently, just a few days ago, it was unbanned by the same people. What happened? Have you regulated it? Have you actually made this people to meet the standard of consumption about this product? So ours is a very funny environment where everything goes, and you know, go to parks where you see community of those sellers is in the motor parks, because that's where you have heavy drinkers. That's where you have heavy consumers of those products. And these people never knew that all these things are never regulated. In fact, they don't have a measure. You can take it as, in fact, you've seen many of them after taking, they just lie where they took them, and that is the end till the next morning, and life continues.
All right, so that's so very true. Now let's move on to Ernest Daly. It's coming from the Nation newspaper, and the big story here says inflation to slow down in coming quarters, says Cardoso, and the writer there says interest rate hike aimed at achieving price stability. On the top strip of the Nation newspaper, Rivers crisis. Fubara sacks traditional rulers council chair, and NAC approves 21 billion for disco for a meter purchase. Now let me see have your take, Ziggy, on inflation to slow down in coming quarters, says Cardoso, coming from the CBN governor.
I wouldn't know the magic they want to use, or the indices he had put forward to actually postulate that.
Which inflation is he referring to?
Which inflation? Is it the one
inflation?
we're having that is close to 100%? Or which one?
It's about 33.9.
You understand?
Yeah.
Yes, but it's galloping. It's galloping. So towards the time he's talking about, you might get close to 100.
Inflation cannot get to 100. That's war.
But we're at war already.
No, the only time inflation will get to 100 is
We're at price war already.
when there's war and there's no food and people have money. That's 100%.
But Argentina has exceeded that. Theirs is about 200.
Exactly, I want to mention that. So, but you know what? The issue with Codeso and the likes, you know, those who are postulated this, an average Nigerian sees the whole country from what he takes, from how much the money he has in his pocket, what he could offer him or what he could get for him. Okay, and I heard that from Rwanda too. Rwanda, the derivatives man, who said that in the next few months, the inflation would drastically drop. Anyway, the issue remains that as long as standard and cost of living are at peak, nobody wants to reason towards that. Because as we speak, we have not been able to achieve as much less hunger than it's supposed to have been. Okay, and if Codeso is coming up with this, I hope he has the magic one to actually throw in all his mites to bring down the inflation. Because as we speak, things are not very normal with everyone.
Yes, very true. Now, talking about the magic wand, the magic wand Cardoso has often used is interest rates hike. And is saying that interest rate hike would help achieve a price stability. How do you think that's possible?
Well, interest rate hike, is this supposed to, is this also stabilize inflation?
According to Cardoso?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Because the truth is that Cardoso cannot even regulate interest rates.
At all.
because the central bank will tell you that they have issued a directive to the banks that interest rate should be 4 or 12%, or whatever it is the case may be. But the customer, the end user that is interacting with the bank directly. Okay, I have a friend that owns a real estate company. He interfaces with these banks. He gets a huge credit facility from them. And he keeps telling me that the problem in their business is the interest rate. That interest rate is going up every day. And once the interest rate jacks up, what they do is they take the overflow, and inject into the cost of the building.
Okay.
So by the time they finish building and they are ready to sell, the purchase price of those buildings, they are not out of reach. So they have several estates, they have finished building, nobody's buying. So is that what Cardoso is saying? That you bring, because what I know about inflation is, when inflation is high or the cost of living is high, people gradually adjust to it. People gradually adjust to cost of living. It will not look like you now have economic equilibrium, but you don't have equilibrium because people, let's even take food, for example. Look at food inflation, for example. You cannot say it's going to come down drastically because there's rainy season. Harvest is not even rainy season. Harvest is from September towards the end of the year. Okay, that's when you now have new in the market, where the market is flooded. So by virtue of production, possibly you are going to have a stability or a fall in price. But the variables that also kick price up, they are now products that are no longer subsidized. Talking about transport, okay, diesel and the rest of it, all the chains for which you get product. See, you can only have, I think he's looking at right now, the pepper, tomatoes, onions, all those things, they're out of reach as we speak now. They are very expensive, and you have small 2, 3, very expensive, because it's not actually the big season for it.
Yes, exactly.
Now, 2, 3 months from now, you're going to enter the big season. Then you're not going to have more of it for lesser price, which is seasonal. Is that what he's saying? That we stabilize this? So I think where we got it wrong was from the beginning. You understand? When we took subsidy off. And then it affected us in a way that nobody imagined, that we are so deeply entrenched to this thing. We were looking at it like, oh, we are spending too much. What we are spending is too much. Why should we continue? This might wreck the economy. We didn't know that by not spending that much, by stopping it, we are going to be in bigger trouble than the trouble we thought we were. I don't know what I'm saying. We are not in bigger trouble because when we were spending that money, we were crying. We were better. So we should have stick to it. You understand what I'm saying? Rather than taking it off and jump into uncertainty and you're not able to control anything, there's no going to be any equilibrium anyway.
Okay. Still speaking on the interest rates. You see, if Codeso is speaking from the angle of bringing down the interest rate that is terribly high, because it is it's not within the reach of low business owners. As we speak, all the interest rates are double digit, if not triple digit. Is it saying that it's going to be one single digit? The only time we can hear Codeso talk, and that will be assimilated, is when the interest rate from all the banks or from the CBN directing all the banks to charge interest rates on single digit, which is very possible. But during inflation, banks will not want to charge that. There are reasons I don't know. Maybe Codeso knows better. All right? Because if you give a businessman some amount of money to run his business, if you charged at a double digit or triple digit, there's no way he will be able to meet up. he will struggle. And of course, that is the reason why you have so many defaulters in loan disbursement from many banks.
Very
because
true.
their digit of interest is so high that no businessman or almost businessman cannot meet up.
Yeah.
Because that law is not visible and is not favorable to many business people.
Very true. And finally, let's move on to the last daily here, and that's coming from this day newspaper. The big story here says police beef up security at the Bayros Palace, vow not to evict deposed emir. And the top strip of the same newspaper have now approved 21 billion for procurement of electricity meters at zero cost to Nigerians. That's interesting to hear. But let's get into the big story here. We talked about this about Vance Ofeli the day before, and I'm going through analysis from people like you in different media. They have generalized what status quo means, and saying that the Justice Lami did not Liliman, sorry, did not clearly state what status quo means. That he actually did not take advantage of literal rule, which of course galvanized to what the governor is doing now, equally exercising his mischief rule, which has gotten to asking that the palace of Bayero be demolished and so on and so forth. So where do we plan going forward from here?
First of all, what the truth is that if you look at the case from the root of it, the court also erred in law. The court erred in law by assuming jurisdiction. Fundamental right enforcement matters. Okay? You cannot commence a chieftaincy, traditional and succession case through fundamental right enforcement. And the court did not address that. And I was wondering, because the man who went to court to enforce his fundamental rights. Okay? Now, the Supreme Court have said, 2 cases and others have said that chieftaincy issues are not fundamental rights. They are privileged. Okay? So you cannot say because the state changed the emirate laws of Kano State, they have repealed the previous and enacted another one, therefore led to your removal, and therefore you are now in court to enforce your fundamental rights. If you look at the fundamental rights of Nigerians as encapsulated from Section 33 to Section 46 of the 1999 Constitution, there's no place where it is stated that kingship, traditional stool, and the rest, the likes of it, are part of our fundamental rights. No, they are not. They are privileges that communities will give to people who they want to lead them. So bringing that action under fundamental enforcement was wrong. The judge didn't go there because for the federal high court, because usually the state high court have jurisdiction to look at chieftaincy matter and traditional issues like that. But here's the federal high court giving a judgment. But where we look at it is that the question you're asked is about the status quo. What does status quo mean?
Yes, exactly.
Does status quo mean where things were before the dispute?
Yes.
Or does status quo means where things are now? You understand? Under the law, return to the status quo. The court said because when the guy went to court for first fundamental right, he filed a motion to restrain the government from implementing their Sanusi's appointment and the new law, from implementing it. And the court granted that order. Okay, don't implement. Okay, stick to what you have done so far. You have made appointment, you have changed the law, stay there. But the state went ahead to inaugurate Sanusi, went ahead to begin to use the new law. And so what status quo will mean in the context is that they ought to go back to where they were before that law was made.
2019.
where that law, which will mean that Ado Bayero.
No, Sanusi.
No, Ado Bayero.
Okay.
No. Still remain.
No, you see, status quo cannot be the time where Sanusi was first emir. You know why it cannot be? A law was on ground through which Sanusi was appointed.
Yes.
Do you understand? Then this man, the past governor, what's his name? Ganduje came and passed a new law, expanded the emirate
to four
as against one that is where Sanusi was before. Now appointed emirs and deposed Sanusi. You understand? So this new governor, the new governor now, came in and repealed the one that Ganduje and reappointed Sanusi.
Okay.
You understand? Now, when did the cause of action now arose? The cause of action arose when Sanusi is now being reappointed. Meaning that the status quo would be where they were before the new law was created and before Sanusi was appointed. And that would be Ado Bayero. You understand? So that's what it is. Because the court also had to punish them for going further to implement contemptuously when there's a standing order of court that you should not. The court said it's not going to, of course, the court does not have power to repeal a law validly passed by the State House of Assembly, which is the new emirate law. And the governor have the power to appoint whoever. So those two actions, governor have the power to do that. The State House of Assembly have power to enact laws. But the courts have a power to say, don't implement yet by an order of court. And that's what the court did. But they overstepped the order of the court and did all they did. So the court now said in this ruling that everything you did from the time I said don't implement, they are invalid. And then the status quo to come back.
This seems to be a little bit, here and there. And I think it will take someone who is in the legal game to truly understand, because the picture painted by both.
Yeah, it is just us that want to make it look favorable to ourselves. These are very simple analysis, and the understanding is very glaring. Now, Sanusi, the Kano Emirate, before now, was operating a single emirate, whose emir was Sanusi. Now, this was being when Ganduje was around. Until Ganduje left, the new man came. So the new sheriff in town said, look, what was being observed or we've been before, it is still what we are still using. Take the same case to the National Assembly, to the State House Assembly. And the State Assembly repealed the law that established that Sanusi is no longer the emir, but 4 emirates were created. Now, they went to the court and said, court now should still shrink that same law to mean that Sanusi is still the emir of this thing, because that was the old one.
Exactly. So
the governor who feels he has the power to outstep his boundary says, yes, I can do and undo. Okay? What that supposed mean is that the law that has been repealed should still be maintained. Sanusi has been brought back as the new emir, which was the old one. So we are still talking about the maintaining the status quo. The status quo was the old one when Sanusi was there. Okay, so now they've gone to court and said, court still rules that, look, status quo should be made. What is the status quo now? The old law, which was Sanusi being there. And Sanusi is still there, continuing from where he stopped.
Exactly.
So the 4 emirates now had been merged to still mean one. But you see, we human beings, just like sometimes when we go to church, we read the Bible to really interpret it where it favors us. That's exactly what is going on in Kano. And the governor is actually exhibiting his power, And the National Assembly has repealed the other law and said, look, we should go by what we had before. That is still in the court as we speak. The CP, I read about it yesterday, and he said that he has no right or the power to pursue, what's it called? The Bayero from, because I think there was a lot of demolition.
Exactly. True. Yeah.
But you see, why all this? Why do we want to do so many things that we only get it where it favors us? But until the court, because the whole thing I know will end up in court. I know that. The whole case will certainly be settled in the law court of a good jurisdiction.
That's very true.
But we should know what is right and do it.
Very true. This is actually becoming very interesting as the day goes by. Well, let's see what the future would look like with this case. I'd love to say thank you to my guests in the studio, Ziggy Ibe. Thank you so very much, sir, for being part of our show. Ambassador Evans Ufeli, thank you also for being part of our show. When we return, Ambassador Evans Ufeli calls on AGF to intervene in unhygienic defecation on Lagos Ibadan Expressway. We'll be right back in a jiffy. Please don't go anywhere.